Hi, welcome to my top 25 college football stadiums list. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but I considered each stadium's game day atmosphere, features, history, capacity, and my personal experience if I've been there. Let's get into it. Starting off the countdown is the home of a team that a lot of us love to hate, Clemson. This stadium started out as a small bowl, partially built by scholarship athletes, but has grown immensely to keep up with the success of the team. The stadium is often referred to as Death Valley. It got that moniker from the university cemetery that overlooks the field. However, recent expansions have blocked the cemetery from sight. The best tradition that happens here is players touching Howard's Rock, a real rock from Death Valley, and then running down the grass hill in the east end zone before each game. Though it seems boring, Harvard Stadium makes this list because of its rich history for both college football and stadium architecture. It was the U.S.'s first stadium built for college football, constructed more than 10 years before any other on this list, since Harvard was a football powerhouse at the turn of the century. Its beautiful horseshoe structure closely emulates Greek stadiums, although it substitutes marble for concrete. Lastly, the proportions of the stadium led to Walter Camp scrapping his idea to widen college football fields by 40 yards in 1906. He instead decided on the forward pass. Another one of the 10 major college stadiums named Memorial Stadium, the pride of Lincoln, Nebraska holds more people than all but 2 Nebraska cities. This stadium is notable for its loud crowd and steep seats, the result of more than 90 years of simply building straight back on every side of the field to increase capacity. Until 2013, it had a beautiful eastern facade based on Ohio Stadium built 1 year earlier, with heavy Roman influences and inscriptions in memory of U.S. wars. Now, another enormous deck sits on top of those stands. Probably the most oddly shaped stadium of the bunch, Autzen Stadium is a standard bowl on steroids. After its famous track and field venue became too small for football, it was built on top of a landfill, which explains its unique sunken profile. This also leads to favorable acoustics, meaning that Autzen Stadium is much louder than its small size suggests. It has been called the loudest in the nation by some college football pundits. A fun tradition occurs when the crowd celebrates the campus's use in the movie Animal House by singing the Shout song. The Carrier Dome is the biggest domed stadium in use by any college. It makes the list because of the unique environment this creates, even if it is better known for basketball. Despite being named for an air conditioning company, it went 40 plus years without AC. However, by 2022, it will have air conditioning thanks to a large renovation, which will also replace the inflatable roof with a higher, fixed roof. The new roof will support a hanging, mobile scoreboard that will be used for both football and basketball. Hard Rock Stadium, formerly known as Dolphins, Landshark, and Sun Life Stadium, has the most varied past of any stadium on this list. It used to host the Florida Marlins while serving as a subpar venue for the NFL's Miami Dolphins. But because of its prime location for big games, it was overhauled in 2016 and fitted with its futuristic canopy. If considered only for its service to the Miami Hurricanes, it probably wouldn't make the list. But it is very hard to pass up a 6-time host of the Super Bowl in such a vibrant city. Depending on how you count, this is the first stadium to seat over 100,000 on this list. I say that because Texas Memorial Stadium is currently undergoing an extensive renovation 100 years in the making. It will fully enclose the field by building permanent seats instead of bleachers in the south end zone. This will cost almost $200 million and be finished in 2021, propelling the stadium higher on the list once it's finished. The old scoreboard, nicknamed Godzillatron, used to be the largest HD screen in the world, and its successor will be very large as well. Another low-key stadium, the Yale Bowl, makes the list for what it inspired and its interesting construction. It directly inspired the Rose Bowl and heavily influenced the designs of the LA Coliseum and Michigan Stadium. It has a very earthy feel, since the dirt excavated for the bowl was used to form the berm that still exists on the outside of the stadium to this day. The designer included no locker rooms for some reason, so Yale, and for a few years the New York Giants, have to walk 600 feet to the stadium after suiting up, greeted with cheering fans along the way. A former Super Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and Arizona Cardinals host, Sun Devil Stadium has the coolest surroundings of any college stadium. A sandy crag with cacti kisses its east stand, and the unique A Mountain, or Hayden Butte, looms in the west. The bowl, upper deck, and suites have all been updated in a big 5-year renovation ending in 2019, which still managed to keep most of the feel of the old glory days. Sun Devil fans are also quite proud that their scoreboard is now a little bit bigger than their rivals, Arizona University. The Gamecocks' Williams-Brice Stadium is sneaky good. It has an underrated look and very underrated noise on game days. In the 80s, there were concerns that the east upper deck would fall down due to the raucous crowd causing swaying by up to a foot, and today, parts of the stadium still shake. Pope John Paul II, Oprah, and Barack Obama have all made appearances here, maybe correlated with the fact that the South Carolina State Fairgrounds lie right next to the stadium. The beginning of the top tier of stadiums is Oklahoma's Palace on the Prairie. This stadium has been expanded continuously for 100 years, and its shiny new south end zone provides luxury seating without isolating fans from the noise. It matches the Cherokee Gothic style of its campus quite well thanks to a facelift right around the turn of the century. The Sooner Schooner is a one-of-a-kind tradition. Considering how many touchdowns are scored here, having a crash only once every 25 years or so is a decent mark for the turf. Every October, Oklahoma and its arch-rival Texas meet halfway at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Its iconic facade was the symbol of one of college's original great bowl games for more than 70 years. Today, it is still the crown jewel of the Texas State Fair. Many fairgoers attend just to see their team play in the Red River Shootout. The stadium has two full, imposing concrete decks, which seat opposing fans on either side of the 50-yard line. The Cotton Bowl hosted the Dallas Cowboys for over a decade, and was the setting of the championship game in the film Friday Night Lights. Notre Dame Stadium has the best campus lead-up to its games, hands down. Thousands of Irish faithful go inside the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, then watch the band play for hours at the Bond Hall steps, Golden Dome, and during the march to the house that Rockne built, in the shadow of Touchdown Jesus on the library. It used to be a simple bowl, since it was originally designed as a scaled-down Michigan stadium, but the 2017 Campus Crossroads project added 750 square feet of space and upgraded the suites, press box, and scoreboard considerably. Nowhere else in college football can you watch a game on an old Civil War training ground. Ever since that era passed, Badgers fans have been watching games here. More recently, the stadium has played host to the fifth quarter band performances and ground-shaking jump-around tradition. There's something charming about the compact structure of the stadium, which can only manage an upper deck on one side and butts up against the 90-year-old Wisconsin Fieldhouse in the south. A new renovation plan will again pack more people into this footprint, adding new amenities in the process. The swamp was given its name by Steve Spurrier because a swamp is where gators live and is hot, sticky, and dangerous. Florida fans in the thousands do the famous gator chomp to ensure that only gators get out alive here. It also helps that Florida puts their opponents on the sunny side of the field. The swamp has a peculiar shape, marked by its oddly endearing 4 orange corners. This unique shape and the fact that it was built in a shallow, swampy sinkhole lead to it being one of the top 5 loudest stadiums in the NCAA. As Alabama's influence on the college football world has grown and grown, Bryant-Denny Stadium has followed. It has been expanded 8 times, and its massive size now contributes to a very hostile atmosphere for the opposition. It doesn't have quite as much history as some other venues, since it used to lose Alabama's biggest games to Birmingham's Legion Field. But now, its sound system, seating, and Walk of Champions are top-notch. The visiting locker room is named the Fail Room after alumnus James Fail. Sanford Stadium has made the most of its cozy on-campus footprint, with room to spare for its signature privet hedges surrounding the field. It was built to hold the large crowds of its rivalry game with Georgia Tech, in a unique location that used to be a valley with a creek. The hedges were temporarily removed to house 2 Olympic soccer gold medal matches in 1996, where the U.S. women triumphed. Recently, Sanford Stadium overhauled its west end zone, adding state-of-the-art locker rooms and a recruiting pavilion under an adjacent campus bridge. Big games now see entrancing red lights fill the bowl before the game. Kyle Field is very big and its crowd is deafening, and that's about all there is to it. Its structure and seating are more modern than most stadiums on this list, because of a $485 million renovation conducted from 2013 to 2015. It rebuilt the west and south stands from scratch. One tradition that speaks to the noisy environment is the singing of the Aggie War Hymn, in which the stands shake as everyone links arms and sways back and forth. This is the first stadium on the list to have housed over 110,000 people for a game. The most culturally and historically significant stadium on this list is the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. In 2028, it will be the main Olympic stadium for its 3rd Summer Olympics. It hosted Super Bowls 1 and 7, and it was the home of the LA Rams for more than 30 years. It has unique field dimensions to accommodate a track, so the peristyle looks over the east end zone in its football configuration. Visitors can see a space shuttle next door, and maybe catch an MLS game across the parking lot too. A $315 million renovation was finished in 2019, which refurbished all the seats and more than tripled the size of the press box. Neyland Stadium is a behemoth right on the Tennessee River. In fact, roughly 300 boats float to the stadium and engage in sailgating each week before the game in order to avoid the plentiful traffic on land. The stadium's checkerboard pattern of the end zones and on the 100,000 plus volunteer fans' shirts is one of the most memorable visuals in all of college football. The unofficial fight song, Rocky Top Tennessee, is sung very loudly and frequently at Neyland. The Rose Bowl houses the bowl game called the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl game. Pasadena's accompanying Rose Parade predates the stadium and has occurred every year since 1890. Almost 1 million people attend every New Year's Day. The stadium was the first truly massive horseshoe-shaped stadium ever built, and it sits next to a golf course in a park near the Angeles National Forest called Arroyo Seco. Apart from the bowl game, the Rose Bowl has hosted every UCLA home game since 1982, 5 Super Bowls, 2 World Cup finals, Olympic cycling, and an Olympic soccer gold medal match. The biggest stadium in the country is the Big House. It was designed by Fielding Yost to be expandable to up to 200,000 seats thanks to deep concrete footings. Uniquely, its original 72,000 seats are virtually all below ground level, which was necessitated because of its swampy, low-lying location. The earth at the dig site turned almost to quicksand thanks to unearthed springs, and a steam shovel is possibly still buried under the turf. Large parts of the concourses remain deep underground today, closely resembling post-apocalyptic bunkers. The only tunnel to the field slopes down 60 feet between its two ends. Tiger Stadium is hostile to the nth degree for LSU's opponents. Alabama's Bear Bryant called it like being inside a drum, and accolades from sports news sites have been ubiquitous. More commonly known as Death Valley, the stadium is also known for its H-style goalposts, one of only 3 stadiums to retain these. It had a classic horseshoe shape from 1936 to 1953, and it housed students from the 30s to the 80s. LSU's band popularized the Neck song at Death Valley. It is now played at dozens of universities. From the banks of the mighty Olentangy, the Buckeyes have called the Horseshoe home for almost 100 years. It was the largest poured concrete structure on Earth back in 1922, and has had 4 renovations since. The rotunda in the north is an homage to the Pantheon of ancient Rome, with stained glass and lights having been recently added. Ohio Stadium was the first stadium of its kind to employ a double-deck structure, and it implemented double columns to reduce obstructions. The open end of the shoe was filled with temporary bleachers until 2000, but has since seated students permanently, while still leaving the stadium slightly open to preserve the iconic shape. The marching band forms a script Ohio each game, with a sousaphone dotting the I. Penn State's home is the king of college football due to its ear-splitting noise, harsh atmosphere, and famous whiteout tradition, which has occurred during the biggest game of each season since 2006. After it began life as an amalgamation of sections from the old stadium across campus, Beaver Stadium has been expanded 9 times in a somewhat haphazard fashion, leading to its lovingly bestowed nickname, the Erector Set. The student section spans the entire south end zone and shakes pom-poms during big games, adding both white noise and an interesting visual effect. The press box is notorious for shaking under the intense vibrations from the rabid fans. Here are some honorable mentions, which just missed the list. They all have some characteristics and personality that make them stand out, but most are lacking in capacity and/or need to be modernized. Thanks for watching!